I can say after hearing your opening statement is, wow. You guys never miss an opportunity to blame your own incompetence on Joe Biden. I mean, you blame Joe Biden for everything. I'm surprised you didn't blame him for the earthquake. It is unbelievable to me that it has taken this long for this Republican majority to do their job. The incompetence and the indifference is stunning. I mean, I really can't believe it. I don't expect much of this Republican majority, but this is really beyond the pale.
Massachusetts Democrat Jim McGovern is exposing the most fundamental aspect of the Republican Party's political goals right now: obstructing legislation.
This is our second Rules Committee meeting of the week, and it's the fourth time, let me repeat, the fourth time a bill to reauthorize FISA has come before our committee. I mean, give me a break. The American people want effective government. What my Republican friends are giving them, quite frankly, is a circus. This is the most ineffective, incompetent majority, I think, in American history, full stop. It has been nearly an entire year almost, since anything that we have done in the Rules Committee has gone to the President's desk. Republicans have tried and failed to pass their own rules 7 times this Congress. 7 times this House has been stuck at a standstill because of their infighting. Before this Congress, it had been 20 years since a rule failed. It's been 50 years, half a century, since we've seen this many rules go down. And Republicans have done it 7 times. 1 or 2, 3 times maybe, that's just incompetence. But 7? 7 is a disaster. 7 is paralysis. It means weeks and weeks of sitting around doing nothing because Republicans can't get their house in order and do their job, and do the job that they were sent here to do. Now, I'm actually sure Mr. Roy was aware of the power they entrusted him with as manager of the rule. He could have offered an amendment to the rule on the floor to do whatever the hell he wanted to do, including rewrite the bill entirely, and it might have passed. The person they picked to send to the floor to represent their position, the Speaker's position, couldn't even be trusted to do it. No wonder we can't get anything done. I mean, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this in my life. And here's some free advice. Find out if your manager supports the rule before you send him or her to the floor to manage the rule. So it would be funny if it weren't turning the world's greatest deliberative body into a circus, but they are. All they care about is silly censures, sham impeachments, and partisan brinkmanship. And this is not what the American people want. And come November, I believe there's going to be a reckoning around here. Anyone with 2 eyes and a brain can understand what's going on. Republicans cannot govern.
Regardless of McGovern's individual politics and how he votes, it's undeniable that he knows exactly what he's talking about when it comes to the chaos of today's Republican Party. The reason why you see so much infighting within that party is because you have a set of politicians who are following Donald Trump's blueprint, and they want to carry out the MAGA movement and their mission, essentially. And they go to the extreme for that, as we know. But then you have other Republicans who are still problematic in other areas, but they want to stick to the old guard of how Republicans do things. They're not willing to go to the extreme, like we've seen with people who support Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. And the country is suffering because of this, right? Because you can barely get any legislation passed, or any meaningful legislation for that matter, right? So that is a problem in itself. And it's a big one because it's not putting our country first and helping everyday Americans. But now let's hear from one of MAGA's finest, Chip Roy, about his perception of the party struggles.
Fact of the matter is, nobody in real America gives 2 rats' rear ends about whether or not someone votes on a rule, manages a rule, goes down to the floor, and then votes on a rule. Nobody in America cares to see the continued perpetuation of what this body, this Congress, has been doing to the American people for generations. Racking up $34.5 trillion of debt, endangering the American people with wide open borders, and all of the stuff that this Congress has been doing endlessly. When the American people hear us talk about, procedures and what we're doing here on the floor, they don't care. What they want is for their civil liberties to be protected. And the fact is, the most American people don't care about those procedures. They want to see the result. So no apology. There's nothing written in the Bible, there's nothing written in the Constitution, there's nothing sacrosanct about how this place is supposed to operate, because what has been doing in this body for far too long is not working. It's just not, no matter who's in charge, no matter who's in the majority, because this isn't about shirts and skins. The American people are sick of shirts and skins. This is about questioning the regime in this town that wants to decide through the intelligence community that there's only one way to do this stuff and that you can't question it. So I'm not going to apologize at all for taking steps to guarantee that we have 2 years instead of 5 years to protect the civil liberties of Americans. Because it's not about shirts and skins, it's about the American people.
Hearing someone like Chip Roy, who was furiously texting Mark Meadows for evidence of election fraud in Trump's favor in the days after the 2020 election, complaining about hyperpartisanship, is comically ironic and a perfect example of the MAGA mentality in action.
I think the American people do care that this Congress seems incapable of getting anything done at all. As I said at my outset, nearly 10 months before this committee, which all consequential legislation goes through, has reported a bill to the floor that has actually become law. I mean, I don't know, maybe people send you here to do nothing, but my constituents sent me here to actually help solve problems and get things done. I'm not asking the gentleman for an apology. I mean, I don't know why the gentleman wanted to be on this committee if he's not going to try to help move legislation to the floor, but that's the decision that your leadership has made. But the gentleman can do whatever the heck he wants. I was just making an observation, and apparently I got under his skin.
People have known this for a long time, but now it's being said out loud. Congressional Republicans don't do a whole lot for their constituents. And I should know, I am one of Ted Cruz's constituents, and here he is doing the bare minimum, refusing to do as little as answering a simple question. Ted Cruz is up for re-election this November, so he's finally hitting the campaign trail, venturing out of his safe spaces like Fox News and his own podcast to be interviewed by Caitlin Collins of CNN. When asked whether or not he would certify the 2024 election results, Ted insisted that her question was ridiculous and really not that simple.
You were the first senator to object to the votes. Mm-hmm. In 2024, will you certify the election results? Do you plan to object, or will you accept the results regardless of who wins the election?
So, Caitlin, I got to say, I think that's actually a ridiculous question.
It's a yes or no question, though.
No, it's not.
Throughout the interview, he went out of his way to not answer the question, even going so far as to invoke the election of 1876. By the end of the interview, Cruz had still not given a straight or strong answer, and Collins made sure that her audience knew it. And Ted's constituents are used to this type of behavior from him. He has famously fled the state during its time of immense and acute need, leaving the Democrat who challenged him for the Senate seat and a congresswoman from the Bronx to do what they could to help out the people of Texas. He also podcasts more than he does anything else these days, which is fine if you're a podcaster, but it's very much not okay if you're a senator. During the interview with Collins, Ted also managed to gloss over the January 6th Capitol riot, insisting that there was a, quote, peaceful transfer of power on January 20th. Ted himself was an instrumental player in the plot to overthrow the 2020 election results. Ted Cruz is great at doing nothing, but he's in good company. I know we've talked about this before on this channel, but Lauren Boebert is still actively campaigning for her new congressional seat by pretending she did something good for her constituents. She's still attempting to take credit for a bill that passed despite her voting against it because the bill is actually doing good things for her constituents. When asked why, if she knew the bill would benefit her constituents, she still decided to vote against it. She said she just didn't like the way it came to be voted upon. In other words, she voted against something that she knew her constituents wanted and needed just to be petty and difficult. And there are plenty of real and legitimate reasons that a congressperson would choose not to vote for a large bill or package. Unfortunately, she did not offer one of those real or legitimate reasons. Not only that, but she's now claiming that she fought for the people of Colorado to secure the federal funding package. She did not. Another famously do-nothing congressperson is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Greene has made more of a name for herself as being an obstructive force in Congress than as a legislator, to the point that members of her own party believe her to be, at worst, a Russian agent, and at best, a chaos agent. Now Van Jones over at CNN is laying out just how ineffective she is for everyone to hear and understand. Just because someone's loud doesn't mean that they're effective. In fact, it usually works the other way around.
They go there because they want to be celebrities. I'm talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. Why do we even know her name? Marjorie Taylor Greene has never passed a bill. She's never chaired a committee. She's never done anything but be a provocateur and a clown.
We've been talking about productivity. And, you know, this is going to be, it's a little awkward when you want to disagree with someone on your side of the aisle, but I have to dramatically disagree with my colleague, Ms. Crockett, who used data and statistics and facts to claim that this is the least productive Congress in modern history. First of all, this Congress removed the Speaker, okay, which has never happened in the history of the Republic. That's clearly that's a big accomplishment in the 118th. This Congress took 15 rounds to even elect that Speaker that they then removed, right, which was historic in its own right. And then they removed a member of their own party. That hadn't happened in 20 years, so kudos to them. They've had a failed impeachment of a president. I don't think we've seen that happen in a really long time.
One thing. I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, one, that I can go campaign on and say we did. One. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one material, meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done besides, well, I guess it's not as bad as the Democrats.